It all began in a massive mansion tucked away in the lush hills of San Diego. A sleek black gate stood tall in front of it, shielding a world of luxury and silence. Inside lived Mr. Raymond Cross, a man whose name echoed in business circles, tech conferences, and financial headlines. At just 48, he had built an empire from scratch and had everything money could buy: private jets, exotic cars, and a house so big it needed a map to navigate. But with all that wealth, something was missing, something real. Trust. Raymond didn't believe in people. He didn't trust friends, didn't love family, and certainly didn't think the poor had morals. To him, everyone had a price. Everyone could be bought or broken. That belief had grown from betrayal, too many fake smiles, stolen ideas, and selfish motives around him. He'd built walls higher than his mansion. One morning, while sipping his black coffee on the patio, watching the fountain dance in the early light, his mind wandered to Maria, the maid. She'd been working for him for just over 6 months. She was quiet. Always on time. Always polite. Barely spoke unless spoken to. She wore worn-out shoes, patched in places, and her uniform never looked new. But she worked harder than anyone he'd ever hired. Not once had she asked for anything. Not even in advance. And that made him suspicious. Raymond had seen people pretend before. He thought, no one's that honest. No one's that quiet unless they're hiding something. So he decided to test her. The next morning, he called his security team and instructed them to deactivate the cameras near his office. Then he entered the room, unlocked his state-of-the-art safe, and left it wide open. Inside was a stack of cash, neatly bundled $100 bills totaling more than $50,000. He even placed a diamond-studded Rolex beside the cash, just to make it more tempting. Then he walked away, leaving the door slightly ajar, making sure Maria would pass by during her usual routine. He hid nearby, waiting. Minutes passed. He could hear the faint clinking of cleaning supplies. Then footsteps. Soft. Careful. Approaching the room. His heart began to race, not out of fear, but out of expectation. He wanted to prove himself right. He needed to. It justified his coldness. It gave reason to his distance from people. Maria stepped into the room. She paused. He could see her through the cracked door. She noticed the safe. It was impossible not to. She stood there in silence for several seconds. Just staring. Raymond's eyes narrowed. Then, slowly, she stepped closer. His breathing slowed. His prediction was about to come true. But what she did next was something he never expected. Maria looked at the safe, then looked around the room. She didn't touch the money. Didn't even reach toward the Rolex. Instead, she backed away and rushed out of the room. Not with greed, but with concern. Raymond quickly moved from his hiding spot, trying to appear casual. A few minutes later, Maria came to him. "Sir," she said, almost out of breath, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but you're safe." "I think it was left open." He stared at her. "Open?" "Yes, I saw it while cleaning the hallway. I didn't go inside. I just thought you should know. I'm sorry if I overstepped." He nodded slowly. "No, it's fine. Thank you." Maria turned and left. He sat there stunned, replaying the scene over and over in his mind. She didn't even take a glance at the money. She didn't hesitate to do the right thing. It shook something in him. A part that had been buried for years. But Raymond wasn't convinced. Maybe she was playing the long game. So the next week, he tested her again. This time, he planted an expensive sapphire necklace under the cushions of the sofa in the guest lounge, the one Maria cleaned every Wednesday. He watched from his study window. Sure enough, she found it. She paused for a moment, looked around, and then walked straight to the security office. She handed it over without a word of doubt or hesitation. Raymond saw it all. And that night, for the first time in many years, he couldn't sleep. Not because he was worried, but because he felt ashamed. Who had he become? Why did he expect the worst in people? Why did he think someone like Maria, struggling to survive, would stoop low for something she didn't earn? He thought of the scars he carried. The betrayals. But then he realized, none of those scars were caused by Maria. She was the complete opposite of everyone who had used him. And yet, he had treated her like a potential thief. The next morning, Raymond called Maria to the patio. She walked in, head slightly lowered as always. "Yes, sir?" He gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing. "I've been meaning to ask, where are you from?" he asked. She looked confused by the question. "I'm from Tijuana, sir. I moved here 2 years ago. My husband passed away, and I came to the U.S. with my son." "Your son?" She nodded. "He's 7. Goes to a local public school. I clean during the day and work in a diner at night. It's not easy, but he's the reason I try." Raymond's throat tightened. He hadn't even known she had a son. Never asked. "Do you like working here?" he said after a pause. She smiled gently. "Yes. You treat me fair." "That's more than most." "More than most?" Raymond had barely spoken to her. Barely noticed her. "Why didn't you take anything?" he asked suddenly, surprising himself. She looked startled. "Take?" He leaned forward. "You saw the safe. The money. The necklace. You could have walked out a rich woman. But you didn't. Why?" Maria's voice was quiet but steady. "Because my son watches me. Even when he's not around, I live like he's watching. I don't want him to grow up thinking shortcuts are the way. I want him to know that even when life is unfair, we don't become what hurts us." Raymond looked away. He stood and walked to the edge of the patio, his mind spinning. That night, he went into his room, opened a drawer, and pulled out a faded photo, his own mother. She had died when he was young, working 2 jobs just to keep him fed. She had taught him right and wrong. But somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten. The next day, Raymond made a decision. He called Maria into his office. "I want to offer you something," he said. "Not a test. A real opportunity." Maria stood still, unsure. "You've worked here for months without complaint. You've been honest, reliable, and loyal. I want to fund your son's education. I also want to offer you a position in my company. You're overqualified to be scrubbing floors." Maria's eyes widened. "Sir, I didn't do anything special." Raymond shook his head. "Exactly. You didn't do anything, when you easily could have. That's what makes you rare." Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. "Thank you," she whispered finally. "No," he said, voice cracking, "thank you for reminding me who I used to be." In the following months, everything changed. Maria became part of the administrative staff at Raymond's company. She took evening classes, and her son was enrolled in a private school with full tuition covered. Her small apartment was replaced with a decent home closer to work. And Raymond? He started talking to people more. Smiling more. Listening. He set up a foundation to support struggling single parents and began working with charities that supported migrant workers. It wasn't about redemption. It was about rediscovery. He stopped seeing the world through a lens of suspicion and started seeing it through eyes of hope. All because one woman chose integrity over temptation. A woman he once doubted became the person who restored his faith in humanity. Sometimes, the richest person in the room isn't the one with the most money, but the one with the purest heart. And sometimes, the test you set for someone else becomes the lesson you were meant to learn. So, if you ever feel tempted to judge someone by what they don't have, pause. Because the ones with the least often carry the most honesty. And that honesty has the power to change everything.